Says we are officially live. We got 4 thumbs up already. Looks like blood is life is in the chat. What's up, Weston? All right. Hopefully we get a good turnout, man. I did some heavy promotion. So okay.
I don't know if I've ever done a live event before. This might be our first one, huh?
Well, we did Instagram. Everything on Instagram was always live.
Oh, okay.
That was always live, but we've never done YouTube, so this is going to be interesting to see the turnout. So maybe I'll wait until we get a couple people in here. We got one person in right now, 2 people in right now. Welcome, guys. Welcome to the show. We're just getting geared up here. Okay, we got 5 people. 5 people in. Okay, I think we're probably okay to start. We got a little audience, a little crowd forming. Rachel Moore. All right, so all right, welcome to the stream, guys. Again, we got Derek Nance with us, and we're gonna have another conversation here about, some different stuff today. We're probably gonna get on some stuff about pregnancy, diet, raising babies, what kind of food to feed babies, raising children, things like that. We're gonna get on some different topics that we haven't covered before, but we'll talk about some of the usuals as well. So, and I got some questions I want to run by Derek too, to see what he thinks about a couple things that me and my wife have been talking about, specifically about raw milk. And, I guess I could just start off with that right now, man. We could just get into it. I was wondering, we were both wondering actually, your thoughts on, do you think women that are pregnant should be drinking cow's milk when they're breastfeeding? My wife had that question. I thought it was an interesting question, and it made us kind of wonder, like, should a woman be drinking cow's milk if she's breastfeeding? What do you think about that?
Well, it depends on how she tolerates it when under gestational period, because the baby gets signals from the mother about what foods she should be eating or not, and sometimes people don't follow them, and other times there's just, for whatever reason, the woman's extremely sensitive to everything, and so sometimes the indications aren't 100%. But
Mhm.
what you can do is go off of instinct, and if that baby was gestated on a diet of raw milk, I don't see why it would harm it to continue on.
Mhm.
So it depends on what the mother was tolerant to. If lactose tolerant and handling it very well, then
Mhm.
I don't see any counterindications on why that baby can't nurse off of a mother drinking raw milk, as long as
Mhm.
it's good quality.
Yeah, and we tend to agree with that too. And we kind of just been going with lately. We've been going with kind of what's worked in the past, and so we don't want to do any strong corrections and
Mhm.
um, like major corrections in our diet right now, because we've been experimenting with that a little bit. We went kind of 0 carb for a week, just to kind of see what would happen. And I just don't know if that's another question I have too, I guess, to run by is, what do you think about women? Do you think women are designed to go 0 carb like men are? Or do you think we have like a difference in our biology that makes us more adaptable because we were the hunters, the gatherers? We could be out hunting for long periods of time, so we had to survive on just meat for long periods of time, whereas they can't. It seems that way. I get comments all the time where people say carnivore diet is not sustainable, keto is not sustainable for women long term. And I
Uh,
don't know, man. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm not sure what the genetic component might be. I mean, we have one chromosome difference, the Y chromosome, X chromosome, but then everything else, seems to be on par. But yeah, the idea that the males were away from the main stash, the women could stash back carbs, they could stash back herbs and all types of other foods. And then if the men were
Mhm.
the primary hunting party, then maybe on some level and some tribes, yeah, the men would be more adapted to carnivore. Of course, when the men killed the animals, the first thing they would do is eat the entire liver, so they would get a little bit of the glycogen from the
Uh,
liver, and so like they weren't totally 0 carbs as we would think. Even in
yeah,
Europe, there's still a little bit of glycogen in the meat, and so
yeah,
there's. But yeah, as far as women might be primed to have, more starches in the diet, and maybe they need to be able to store more nutrients in order to transfer it to the baby. And there
yeah,
could be something to, depending on what the needs are of the individual. And
yeah.
sometimes it takes a little bit of time to switch over to carnivore to where the body's actually making its own glycogen out of protein. And so
Uh,
where men go on these long extreme hunts and might have to be away for many, many days, even longer. Maybe that extreme has made us more adaptive to going pure carnivore for longer periods of time. So
Yeah,
I can't say for sure, but I think we're so adaptive that if everything else is optimal, I think we can go back and forth depending on what our instinct and appetite is.
sure. Yeah, I have a hard time differentiating between what if it's a genetic component or if it's a like a almost like a cycle or like an emotional component, like to whereas women are more drawn to like comfort foods than men. So like, and I've sort of seen that with my wife, and we talk about it all the time, and she sort of admits it to a certain point, you know. So I just it's hard for me to figure out. I'm like, is this something that they need for their biology? They need a little bit more carbs than we do to what make babies and
Is
nurse
it?
babies, or is it an emotional component too? I think it may be like a maybe both going on, but we're experimenting with it right now, and we're trying to figure it out, But
There's
yeah,
an ancestral divide, possibly. The women folk did have a separation of labors, and maybe they were more involved in intensive carb harvesting than the men were. And so, like, on some ancestral level, mother to daughter for generations. And
hmm
now it translates into today's society where, the grandmother's cooking cookies, baking goods, and
right,
the young women are in the kitchen or with the grandmother and those fond memories, that comfort food. And
yeah,
where as if their comfort food was a big slab of meat,
mm,
generations, and they never seen a cookie in their life, maybe the comfort food wouldn't be a carb.
right,
There's psychological associations that go back to the generations, and the sooner the generation is, the more connection there is. So within our lifetimes, most of us had grandmothers that cooked, and they cooked starches, and some of them cooked them very well, and they were comforting, and something
hmm
people can remember.
yeah. So I'll read some comments here from time to time that are interesting. Rachel Moore says, "I think there's no difference for men or women in the Hazda tribe. The men eat honey and carbs, while the women don't like it and are pure carnivore. Personally, carbs make me ill." So yeah, I mean that tends to, I tend to also believe like one species, one diet, and I used to believe that as well. But sometimes then I started getting into, which is kind of a different topic, but like maybe people in the tropics are more adapted to eat vegetation, whereas people in the cold are more adapted to eat meat and fat. So
Hu- Humans are a different animal
yeah,
altogether. So, like, there's different things that we do that other animals don't. Like, some of those tribal men. I don't know if you saw the men in Africa that drink honey and milk, and they get really big bellies, and then they have
yeah,
they have a big beauty pageant.
yeah. To be able to see how fat they are, yeah,
Uh-huh. So, like,
uh,
that's cultural. I mean, that's not really instinctive. I don't think it's an instinctive drive for men to get big pot bellies, but in the
uh-huh,
cultural context, that's what is beautiful and that's what is attractive. So
hmm
people pick up on that really early in life. And so there's a lot of cultural influences and subconsciously that we don't know we have. And
hmm
so we now tend to try to be lean, try to eat real lean and not have too much fat, and they can correlate dietary fat with bodily fat, and then all of a sudden there's all these dietary restrictions people put on themselves that aren't instinctive. They're not natural. They're cultural.
hmm yeah, sure. So like on the milk stuff, there's a couple questions there I wanted to drill into because me and my wife been on this milk thing for a couple weeks, and it's interesting. Like I go back and forth on milk all the time, man, and it seems to be one of those foods that it's like there's like a divide. Like certain people say this about it, certain people say that. There's so much to say
That
about
was
milk.
me.
I
Yeah.
feel that you have you have gone like largely the last like what 13 years without doing any milk at all, right?
Mhm. For the
Okay,
most
so
part, no milk at all, and then experiments with milk, and
mhm,
sometimes intense cravings, and then all of a sudden I'll drink it for 2 weeks, and then something happens, and then, oh God, I don't want to drink milk again, and I won't drink it again for a year, and kind of
oh
off the milk wagon, and then but
yeah, it,
maybe there's a happy medium. Maybe there's for different people there's that whatever they can tolerate, and then other people can't hardly have any. So it is
yeah,
very individual. I don't think that there's a one size fits all answer to where dairy fits in.
yeah. So like one part of me wants to believe that like milk is designed obviously for babies and for growing animals. And then the other benefit of milk will be for people that have like a completely degenerated, broken down body and need
Pardon me, I just had to turn that off.
so
Go for it.
sorry. So yeah, like and the other part would be like other some people need to rebuild their body to get nutrition back in their system and to heal as fast as possible. So I think those seem to be the two most obvious benefits or uses for milk that I can see. Um, and but outside of that, I'm just wondering if adults are meant to be drinking milk because it seems like we're drawn towards the cream and the butter. So it seems like we're really after the fat, even as adults especially. But I tend to go in cycles on milk, and I've done this for years, where I'll just drink milk, tons of milk for like a short period of time, and then I'll go like a month or two without it. Like you said, not quite as extreme. I won't go like a year without it, but I'll go months without it, and then I'll just crave it again. I'll go get it, and like I'll go get some more, and we'll do it again, just over and over again. And right now, I'm off the milk,
Mhm.
so just like it just doesn't appeal to me at the moment. So we were talking about me and my wife were talking about like is should we even be drinking milk, you know? So we decided to like go a week without it, and we cut out the starches too because we were doing like a baked potato every once in a while. So we cut that out and everything. And she claimed she wasn't feeling that great, and she felt like something was missing, even though we were eating tons of fat. She ate like 2 pounds of meat and tons of fat every day, and she was still hungry.
Mhm.
And we're breastfeeding right now, so I'm being very careful about making sure she gets.
Breastfeeding is maybe the answer to that question. You're going to be hungry. I fed a breastfeeding woman and just constant hunger. It doesn't matter what food combinations you're having. Like, yeah, there's always something missing,
Mm,
and it's
sure,
really,
yeah,
but yeah, I understand having to transition in the middle of that might be very difficult. To understand, do you need this? And I don't know. Like, I've not had success with long term high dairy, so
hmm
I'll do what I call now a milk binge. I'll drink like a gallon in a day with a fast, and then don't eat anything else, and then after that, just meat for 2 weeks straight. So like that, and it seems to do pretty well. Like overall,
hmm
I'm gaining weight. Like I think I'm about up to 200 pounds now because
mm,
I've been incorporating a little bit of dairy and a little bit of carb, and I do a little bit of honey and my lemon water now. I've been doing about like maybe a teaspoon of honey a day. I mean, we're
mhm,
talking minor amounts, but because where I'm so, uh, I guess I so extreme carnivore for so long, just a spoonful of honey or just one little glass of milk is really all of an insulin
I
uh,
know,
release I need to be able to add a little bit of pounds. And so
yeah,
it's that I've noticed working with the last maybe 4 months or so, just more carbs, and I've gained probably about 20 pounds. So like I'm pushing 200 now, and so feeling good.
I have a very sim yeah, I have very similar experiences with that, and when I cut carbs out, I get kinda lean, and then when I put them back in, I just instantly put weight on, and I feel great at 220, and I also feel great at 205. It doesn't matter, like, it doesn't matter, I feel it's a different it's obviously a lighter and a heavier feeling, but I feel great at both weights, but yeah, with the milk, like I was just thinking, maybe as adults we're not meant to necessarily be guzzling milk all day. That doesn't really make sense. It makes sense that we might make some cheese or some butter or whatever. But maybe we need it because like with the food that we're sourcing, like maybe the soil is devoid of nutrients, the grass is devoid of nutrients. So we need to cover our bases and introduce milk in to sort of cover those like nutritional gaps.
And basic electrolytes, and yet magnesium, phosphorus, calcium, these are all essential minerals, and maybe just eating the red meat is just not enough to get it all. So like I've had these thoughts too. And
Right.
I remember just before paleo, when I was a teenager growing up, I remember going through phases of just, I had to have a big glass of milk after school every single day. And I would
Yeah.
drink, maybe a half a gallon of milk a day when
hmm
I was going through my growth spurt. And I grew about 9 inches in 1 year. Of course, that was back when they were treating the milk with, so it's hard to say, with
yeah.
that. This was the pre no growth hormone labeling. So
Right.
it's hard say what kind of milk I was getting, but like, yeah, there was an intense craving and I needed it because my body was just growing so fast that you just have to fuel. And maybe when you're going through healing crisis as well, or you're trying to purify and cleanse,
Hmm.
milk can be really good, especially if it's, good quality whole raw milk. It might be good to do just during certain phases of growth,
Hmm.
development, and healing. And it's something that nobody can tell. Like there's no expert out there that can say how much milk and when you should drink it. It's something that really has to be developed from within, that
Yep.
instinct.
Yeah, I agree. So, well, all right, man. That was pretty much my questions on milk to you because I know you probably have some interesting stuff to say about that.
And I've
there's
noticed kids, like, my children drink a lot of milk, and I've finally been able to get them onto the raw milk. Like, off and on, they go stay with family, they read little blurbs on the internet, and they say raw milk has bacteria in it. And they hear this stuff and they learn it real early. And so they become wary and phobic. But my youngest been drinking a lot of raw milk lately, and I mean her strength and her energy's just gone up, and I can just tell like it's doing her good. And of course she's going through that growth spurt. You got to have some type of extra nutrition, and sometimes in most modern diets are completely lacking. So when
Mhm,
you're talking about young kids growing and developing, and you can't always source good quality red meat to have on the table every night for dinner, then yeah, a cup of raw milk would
mhm.
be a good alternative, or at least something to implement into a diet that would help them grow and develop. I'm all for it. Like, I don't know why raw milk is illegal still in some states, and they're still
Mhm.
prosecuting Amish people over it. But well, at the same time, you can go to the liquor store and kill yourself with bourbon.
Yeah.
My daughter asked me that, and it's like, why is raw milk illegal and beer not? I don't. It's like
Nobody knows, man. Nobody knows.
superstition from generations ago carries forth, and we're still in it. So
I
don't
know.
be afraid of raw milk if it comes from a reputable farm. If you've gone to the farm yourself, see the people who raise the animals, see the other people who drink the milk. Use your own taste and judgment.
Mhm.
Yeah, definitely don't drink just any milk from anywhere. But if you're conscientious of where it comes from and you see the animals that are healthy and see the people that are drinking it in the community, then go for it.
Yep. Yep. Feel the same way, man. We love it. Um, so, um, so yeah, with the baby stuff, like there's a few things that we're practicing that I thought would be interesting to talk about. Um, for one, we did like a free birth, which was completely outside the medical system. We haven't seen a doctor one time the whole time. No ultrasounds, no fetal scanning and whatever they do, all this different stuff that they do. She did a bunch of research on it while she was pregnant and stuff, so like she knows much more about it than I do. But yeah, we didn't do any doctor's visits, and we did the whole thing basically by ourselves. We had what's called a birth keeper that was on call if we needed her. But she was really hands on because she's a free birth person. So like she doesn't want to she doesn't like having the equipment or anything like that with her. She's just there for like emotional support. But we were able to pull it off, man, which was amazing, amazing experience. And like I'm really glad that we were able to do it because it was she was in labor for a while. It was pretty crazy. But so we did that, and then when it comes to actually raising the baby, there's a lot of interesting things that we're doing, like baby carrying. Like we never had to buy a stroller because we're never going to use a stroller. And it's just like some of this stuff I never thought about until she brought it up. She was researching it. She's involved in all these groups online. And
Yeah, there's
like,
a lot. I remember the groups, a
yeah, they're
lot of
awesome.
parent groups, and you
They're awesome.
yeah, I started on the crunchy side. So like I was even before I went raw paleo, I would
Hmm.
look for natural ways of raising children, and so we
Hmm.
came across a number of things from cloth diaper groups to something called attachment parenting, where you basically hold the baby. You
Yep.
have slings and you have backpack carriers, and you just take them everywhere, and you don't leave their sight
Yep.
for the first year. And so
Yep.
that's where we came from. That's who we
Yeah.
were. And the babies learned from being on the sides of the parents and being carried and being brought through the daily life and not being separated and not being put into a stroller or put into a crib and only attended to when cranky. No, no, they have to be a part of it, and it's an investment of time and energy.
It
And
is.
one between two parents in good health is easy. Like, I'm not saying this without experience. Like, I've had my struggles, and I was going through a lot of financial and health struggles even when my first two were born, but we could handle it. It's something, we're young, we just couldn't. But after about three, I'm just giving you, my experience. So, like, yeah, there's a certain way to do it. And so, but we had three really close together, and it was a lot by the
Mm,
time the third one came around. So,
mm.
I don't know if you're planning on spacing them out or if you had any plans for the future.
Yeah, yeah. So that would be great if we could space them out for sure. That's going to be probably the plan, just because I see benefits to both. I see benefits to having them all together at once, but I think spacing them out,
Mhm.
because like as the man, like I'm in charge of like all the finances in the household. So like I'm obviously like that's what I'm thinking about a lot of the times is like how we're going to be able to manage all this, because we want a big family.
Mhm.
um, three minimum for sure. So I'm thinking like, how are we going to feed everybody grass fed beef and blah blah blah. I'm doing the math on it, and I'm like, this math is looking a little ridiculous here. So yeah, spacing them out I think is probably the way to go. Because like I'm just thinking like when they're teenagers, if you got one that's like 17, one that's like I don't know 14, one that's like 9 or 10, you know, but one's out of the house, now you got two in the house. One's out of the house, now you got one. So you don't have like three in the house all at once that are all teenagers. So I'm just kind of figuring stuff out.
I'm, I'm, I'm there. Yeah, all mine are teenagers. Like, my son's about to turn 18.
Hmm.
And so they grew up close, though. That's it too. When they're closer together,
I know.
they always have each other, and they always have each other's back. So there's
Yeah.
different ways. There's different ways to do it, but I think that you got a good start. I'm very curious on how your journey goes because with
Oh,
having partners that are on board with this natural way of life, I think that
yeah.
you something very special there.
Yeah. We are too, man. It was, it's something that we talk about all the time. We're just amazed at like, we're like, how this is all going to work out. Like we have it's like, I just told her last night, I was like, this is so amazing. Like I'm looking at a completely son is completely unvaccinated. Like I can't believe that we did that. Like we brought a human being into the world that has absolutely no like poison in his body, from the medical industry.
And if more people don't fight for that right, it's going away. Like, what we're doing, the way we're trying to do things, a lot of places is almost illegal. And some places, yeah, you can't even get away with it without severe ramifications from the state. They're just breathing down your neck. So we're doing what we can now, and I think we should encourage others to as well because I've
Mhm,
seen results. I've seen so many good results for other people who
mhm,
don't go the medical interventionist route for every little sniffle their child has, and
I
good
know.
results come from it. Just letting them build their immune systems naturally is the way to go. And I had to fight tooth and nail, like, and I can't imagine the next generation behind us coming up, how how much they're going to have to fight. And so we
Yeah.
have to. It's the only way to maintain our ancestral way of life and to go back to some of the health promoting practices that will uh, result in healthy children and healthy offspring. And so we know this. There's plenty of evidence to way people traditionally raise children. There's not a lot of good evidence whatsoever on this modern path of medical intervention from birth till death. It's a lot of problems have come up. And so
Hmm.
my children were born in the hospital because the mother had underlying condition, diabetes, and she had to have a closely watched and monitored. And so we had the hospital experience, and anybody who can avoid that is healthy and strong and maybe has a good midwife or some other guide to help them through the process of natural birth. I encourage that totally. Like where we went at the university hospital, it was taking too long. So, after 12 hours of labor, they almost automatically start putting Pitocin, like this hormone, to try to dilate the cervix and try to get the water to break. So yeah, one shift, if you're in there for labor, one shift, and they're like, well, it's not going fast enough, they'll almost always try to pump you full of hormones. That's the first thing.
Hmm.
They'll give you a group B strep test. They'll strep test the mother. And if you got a strep bacteria that they don't like, they're going to offer you intravenous antibiotics. Well,
Hmm.
this was the standard mode of procedure, 15 years ago. I'm not sure how they've updated it since, but I don't think they've changed it much. And they'll also test for your rubella titers. And if your rubella titers are low, they'll offer the mom a rubella shot on the way out the door, on top of the hepatitis shot they give the children, which I was not able to protect my son from. I told the doctor after she gave birth, the attending doctor, physician, we don't want the shot. And he said, okay. And so I thought that was settled. And so after, she gave birth and we got the baby and everything was okay. It's like, well, I got to go home because I have other things to do. I need to get the home ready. And so I went home and I came back like maybe 8 hours later. And then all of a sudden, like, they told me that he's just got his hepatitis shot. And I talked to the other doctor, completely different doctor. Oh, I'm sorry, but she must have signed the papers. Well, she was kind of out of it because she was on pain meds
Yeah.
and put papers in front of her to sign after I already specifically said no. And then within about maybe 5 to 6 hours after the hepatitis shot, he develops jaundice and
Jeez.
starts turning yellow. And they say, oh, this is typical, this is normal. And it is, because he was a few weeks premature and their liver's not quite developed. But all the reason not to give them a hepatitis shot.
I know. I know. I
And
know.
it's standard procedure now in the neonatal units where children are born in frail health to give them intravenous gentamicin, like antibiotics, as a prophylactic because they don't want to have the liability of an infection on the ward. So what they do is they just treat the mother with antibiotics, treat the child with antibiotics, give them vaccines, like in the first day.
I
The whole,
know.
and then if they're a male, they'll cut your freaking foreskin off.
I know.
It's Ah,
I
this is
know.
this is our welcome to the world.
Yeah, I mean, my wife made a list on her phone that in case we had to go to the hospital, it was a list of things that we would decline. And it was, on her phone screen, it was from top to bottom. It was all this stuff, no PKU screening, no cervical checks, no, like you said, no antibiotics, no vitamin K shot, no epidural. Like there's just all this stuff that they're doing to women while they're giving birth. And for one thing, like one really interesting thing is that they have them in a position that's not really natural to childbirth, like being on your back. That's not like a natural childbirth position. So like the conditions of the hospital could actually be creating the problem itself. And so it's like they're creating the problems and then they're trying to cure the problems. So that's like an interesting. We've all heard that before.
Yeah, but
So,
each one has to be charged, of course, to the insurance at absorbent
I
rate. Like
I
that.
know that's the other thing, man. Yeah, they're doing it to charge insurance and make money, and like you said, the liabilities that they have for losing the baby, losing the mother, infections, blah blah blah. That is why they do everything like preemptively, and then also they're in the business of basically just they have like they're just filing mothers in and just one after the other and just boom 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 knocking them out. Whereas like some labors take like a few days. That's something I learned from the birth keeper when we had our initial meeting with the birth keeper and my wife. I said, she was like, is there anything that concerns you or blah blah blah? And I said, yeah, well I think it seems like I would get concerned if the labor was going on for like a day or two. I would be like, okay, let's go to the hospital or something. And she just kind of laughed at me and she's like, that's totally normal. Like it's totally normal to be in labor for like 2 days, 3 days. Like, and I didn't know that. Like I was under the impression that you just maybe like 12 hours or something. But so
Yeah,
people freak out. People freak out. They go in labor for a day or two. They freak out if they're doing a home birth, and they might go to the hospital preemptively when the baby was actually going to come by itself. So it's just like you just got to really have faith and like with us, it's like you just got to have faith in God, the creator, the creation, everything, the whole system that we're in. Like, it's so funny. It's like it's the reason we're all here. There's like what, like 7 billion people or something on Earth. Like we all got here from childbirth. So like, why are they making this like giant system out of it? Like most people just like go into the forest and just plop down and like crap their baby out into the grass. It's like we don't need these like hospitals to be doing this stuff. So
Right. And they're there if we need it. They're there for a backup. If after 2 or 3
yeah.
days of labor and the woman's so exhausted and the signs are that she's having trouble, then any intelligent person can know, okay, she needs help. But there has to be somebody around with enough experience to see that process, and we're losing that.
Yeah.
The old mothers are just not around anymore. The ones that had the childbirth at home and they had the midwives, like those are so few and far between that we
Right.
just don't have people with real experience anymore to tell
Yep.
the signs when
Yep.
they help. And so everybody out of fear, and there's a lot of justified fears, they want to go to the medical professionals because they at least know everything will be 100% safe.
Hmm.
But there's trade-offs for that safety and security, and
Yep.
it could be the health of the child later on because whatever the intervention was they did at the hospital. And that's not saying that there's not good people. There's great people, and when you do need life saving interventions, thank God they're there. It's
Hmm.
just we got to know when to call upon them and when to say we can handle this ourselves.
I agree. I agree. Yeah, we shouldn't. I don't think we should damn the whole allopathic medicine because they can be there for emergencies and they can really save people's lives a lot of the time. So there's that for sure. But yeah, it's all been very interesting, man. And like back to the like baby carrying and
Mhm.
like co-sleeping is another one. Like it's like everything that you're supposed to do with your baby that's like the best thing for your baby they say is like basically dangerous or like child
I know.
abuse. And
There's
like co-sleeping, like one that like I'll gotta admit, like I'm a very naturally low fear person. And the co-sleeping thing is the only thing that concerned me. And I was, because obviously I'm thinking like what happens if you roll over on them or whatever. Like, I was thinking about that, but she just had an instinct to be able to sleep with him, and she did a bunch of research on it, and she was able to teach herself how to do it just by like sleeping on her side while he nursed,
Mhm.
and now she sleeps with him like on top of her belly, and she's been doing that, and it's been great, man. Like, and on top of the breastfeeding, it's like basically I don't have to do anything at night. Like I don't have to get up and like making bottles or anything. So like the natural way of raising a baby is actually like naturally a lot easier on the man because we don't have to really do much. Like she's doing like 99% of it. Like what I do is like if she needs to do something real quick, like I'll hold him. Like well, she'll like do some dishes or something. But for the most part, like I'm doing all that stuff. I'm cleaning up the house. I'm doing everything. She hasn't left the house without me since she's had the kid in a month and a half. Like she doesn't drive anywhere. She just stays here. I get all the resources and the food. I bring it back. But but yeah, she's pretty much carrying him like 24 hours a day, outside of maybe a few minutes where she sets him down for a second to like maybe take a bath or something. But he's constantly on her, and the co-sleeping is great because then she doesn't have to get up and go to a different room. She doesn't have to like warm a bottle up and do all this crap that people are doing. It's like the way that people are raising kids is like it's no wonder that people are freaked out about having kids because the way they're doing it is like putting more stress on their life, you know, than it should be. So,
I
but
was yeah, I think I was weaned at 4 months, and then, it's just standard practice for the baby to go sleep in the crib in the other room. And so, I'll let him cry it out. He'll be okay.
I
And then
that doesn't I don't we were talking about that, and we don't really necessarily agree with that, man. Because it's like whenever he's crying, like, the only time I've ever heard my son cry, was when he was hungry or he needs, his diaper changed. Those are the only 2 things. Like, other than that, he's not just crying just for the hell of it, you know what I mean? Like,
well,
he's doing it for
like
a reason.
like I said, he's got a good start in life. Not everybody's got so blessed, So, yeah, when my son was in the hospital, they gave him the hepatitis shot, and then he was back there under the lights that they had to use to help treat the jaundice. And then they we're giving them formula. And so just from day one, it's a hard life for a lot of people.
Yep.
And if the baby's well fed, well nourished, well gestated, then yeah, just keep them fed and keep them comfortable, warmth and clean and human skin, human contact, and they're in heaven. I mean, yeah,
Yep.
they'll get a little grumpy sometimes, but that's just them,
Yeah.
hey, trying to reach out.
Yeah, he gets a little grumpy every once in a while. He's definitely not like a perfect little angel, but he's still a baby. He still literally cries like a baby for no reason. It seems sometimes, but for the most part, it's always he needs a diaper change or he needs food. But uh, one thing that we're doing now is the elimination communication thing. So like this always blew my mind. Like before we had the kid, Shelby was showing me these Instagram channels where people were like training their babies to use the toilet, and I thought that was just like mind blowing. Like I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And then she started doing it with our son at like 2 weeks, 3 weeks old. She was putting him on this little tiny little toilet, and he was going to the bathroom in the toilet. And I was like, "How the hell is he doing that?" I couldn't believe it. And then she's continuing to do it. Like every day, he's doing it. And I'm like, "How can you tell that he needs to go or whatever?" And like part of it, I could tell too, is you look at it and he starts like grunting. Like I
Hmm.
didn't know babies made the noises that they make until you have one. I had no idea, dude. Like I thought babies were like goo goo gaga and like they just cried, but like this dude makes like animal grunting noises like all the time. It's hilarious. But when he wants to go to the bathroom, that's what he does. Is he starts grunting and like kind of contorting his face, and then she'll bring him upstairs, and he'll go into the toilet. And he's done it so many times, dude. And he's only like a month old. So we're thinking by the time he's like 9 months, he's probably going to be toilet trained. It's amazing.
Yeah. See, a lot of that stuff wasn't around when I was doing the cloth diapers. I had noticed them grunt, but by the time you get them with the cloth diaper, it's just hard to go off their indication. So I never
Hmm.
really tried that elimination technique, but
Hmm.
I have no doubt that it would work if the mother's attentive to all the cues and you get it real right on right away. So yeah, I totally believe that that's a thing.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
fun. Some of the natural, like if you look at like there's a Natural Geographic where some of these African mothers were just they'd see the baby and when it's getting ready to go, they just kind of hold it, and sometimes it'd go on their leg, and one of them like grabbed a corn cob and just scraped it off and just chucked it because if it's just mother's milk, I mean
Yeah,
it's not. I mean
I
it's
know.
not something that you need to be worried about. just just wipe it off and clean them up and go on with it.
I know. Yeah. So that's been a pretty profound experience seeing that because I didn't even know that was possible. I thought basically kids just crap their pants till they were like two at least. But
Using the cloth diaper.
that's really interesting, and yeah, we're doing cloth. Yeah, we're doing all cloth diapers, and it's just been interesting because it also opens up the discussion of like kids basically have an instinct to not soil themselves. Like babies even have that instinct to not do that. So if you give them the option to go upstairs and go on their little baby toilet, then they'll do it. But if like if you kind of I don't know, if you train that out of them, then they might just start learn how to just go on themselves and then kind of lose that instinct or whatever. But so so they have that instinct, and also I believe they have like sphincter control, whereas they say that babies don't have sphincter control, but I think they actually do. So there's just so much stuff that we're learning about kids and babies that they're saying is like it's not true. But if you just like kind of watch your kid and use your instincts, like you'll see it's true right in front of your face. So
Right. And yeah, don't be scared. It scares a lot of people, changing diapers and cleaning cloth diapers, and it's it is a lot more work, to do. But you can get a rhythm together. You get the diaper basket going, and then just clean it, and
yep,
then every day just we did a load every couple days, and so we kept tons of flats. Like you just keep a pile of extras, and then you just have them ready to go at all times.
yep. She's got the whole system down.
Mhm.
I've been lucky enough that we're both doing our role, our male and female roles very respectively and very individually. So like she's doing basically all the stuff with the baby, and I'm doing all the stuff with work and the business and trying to bring in resources and money and protecting the homestead. But yeah, so she's doing all that stuff, and she did a really good job of preparing for it too, like getting all the different little things that you need, diapers and diaper covers, and then little snappy things that put it all together and like
Oh yeah, I remember those things with the
yeah,
little you just clip
yeah,
on. And
yeah,
then they make fancy, if you want to get fancy, they got the wool covers. So like you can have the cotton flats, and then they have like these night covers, like if you're, keeping them just to keep them a little extra warm.
yeah.
So like they have like a wool cover that you can put over it
I
too.
think I think we have those. I know we have diaper covers. I can't remember if they were cotton or wool, but
Yeah, they have all types. Like it's
yeah,
a world of itself. Like in these some of these groups, and everybody has their preferences of what kinds to use.
uh-huh,
And
yeah,
so, like after cloth diaper and 4 kids, I kind of got a little bit of a knack for it. And then they after the first one's potty trained, the next ones just kind of potty train themselves too from watching the others. So it's just step
mm,
by step. So once
that's yeah, that's
so
awesome.
I think once you get through this first one, yeah, the next one's just going to be just a piece of cake.
Good. Yeah, looking forward to that. Sure. So yeah, the other thing, I mean, we're gonna do homeschooling at first. We have big plans, obviously, to do everything the most natural way possible. We'll see how it all works out. Like they say, you know how to make God laugh is tell him your plans. So
I had plans once. I was optimistic and all bright eyed about, oh yeah, the education. It just, oh
no,
Lord,
I
it
know.
it's not easy.
Oh, I know, man. I'm trying to be realistic, and I'm trying to slowly just have the discussion that like we'll shoot for the stars and see where we land. But I think we got a very good foundation right now that we're both very happy with, and everything from here should be okay. No matter if he has to go public school or not, if we have to bring in some extra income or whatever we have to do. But luckily, I'm in Nebraska, and I'm in a good area where I'm in a city of like there's about 1 million people, counting the city and the surrounding areas, and a lot of really cool sort of country-ish towns that aren't necessarily tiny towns, but they're right outside the city that you can raise families, and they're just like really good people out there. So, and it's like the cost of living is fairly low. The houses are pretty decently priced. So, that's probably where we're going to end up. I'm thinking. I hope we don't have to end up too far out, but we're going to end up somewhere in like a smaller-ish town in Nebraska and just kind of raise him there. And then if he has to go in the school system, then we'll have a good school system to put him in, not like an inner city school.
You're gonna buy like a house, have a house big enough to grow. Is that the plan?
Oh, to grow like food or
Or both?
yeah. I mean, obviously, what I want to do is raise sheep, man. I want to raise like some food. That's
Hmm.
the yeah. So getting land, that would be like the first thing we'd want to do. If we can't do that, then we'll just get a house and go from there. But we may just have to
Sometimes,
first
yeah,
off, do the land later. We'll see.
yeah. Sometimes you got to do what you have to do. I live in the city, and because I make more money as an electrician as I could ever make out in the countryside as a farmer. And then even working mechanical jobs out in the country, still the pay's not as good, and there's a lot more hardship involved. So I
Yeah,
took the easy route, taking the city job, and then trying to outsource for some good food, in which we can still support, the farmers out in the countryside and
hmm
give patronage to those who do it right. So I believe that.
yeah. I'm
And
thinking my plan is to have one foot in both worlds. So I want to move like to where I'm maybe like 30 minutes outside of Omaha to where I'm going to still work in the Omaha area. So I'll have to just drive in,
mm,
but then I can drive out and still have access to the farms and stuff out there. But if I want to have like my actual land, like I'm probably going to have to be at least an hour out, like an hour and a half out. And so that's going to where it's going to get kind of tricky. because it's like I don't know if I'm going to be wanting to drive 3 hours a day back and forth to work. So so that's where it comes down to, like you said, like I'm totally with you, man. Like I just started I'm starting a new job Monday. Actually, I'm getting in a whole new trade. So basically, like I'm gonna need the city to get business. You know.
New trade. That's an undertaking.
I know. Yeah, it's we're gonna be putting up metal buildings, so it's very fundamental, very structural, and um, it's a little bit different than what I was doing. So, but I figured it was just a lot of things pushed me into it. The trade that I was in, like the door and hardware trade, wasn't necessarily exciting, and there wasn't any room to move around where I was at. I
Mm,
just I became like the shop foreman, and I was like, that was it. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to be the shop foreman for the next like 40 years, and I'm like stuck in this shop. So I kind of wanted to get outside because like my ultimate goal, like my number one priority with work is like I want to be on my feet. You know, I don't want to be like on a computer. I don't want to be doing sales. I don't want to be staring at a screen all day. Like it's about health for me.
mhm.
So I decided I want to get outside. So that's why I started putting in some applications to places that are actually like building stuff outside. So
Think that's where I've found myself. Like I worked inside restaurant work when I was a teenager, but you're just under the artificial lights and you're just inside this confined space, just nowhere else. That's just it. Five
yeah,
days of the same
yeah,
environment. And so yeah, there's something in the heart that just longs to be out and check out new things. So yeah, doing service electrical work, I do everything and everywhere. So I
hmm
mean, I could go out to in the summertime. We go out to the do swimming pools, so I could hook up pool equipment.
oh no,
Which sometimes it can be bad the weather, and other times you have to dig a 40-foot ditch by hand.
mhm,
And but there's opportunities where you can still take away a lunch break in the shade and just kind of rest out in the fresh air and just be away from it all. So
mhm.
there's trade-offs, and so I took the work trade, and that's kind of where I'm happy most serving. Like, yeah, desk job under artificial lights all day. I couldn't imagine that life.
No way, dude. No way,
No
man.
way.
Speaking, you just reminded me of before I left the shop. They just replaced all of the lights with LED lights.
Hmm.
So we had these like giant, like I don't know if they're high pressure sodium
Hmm. Oh yeah.
or whatever, big old lamps up in the ceiling that were lighting up the top, and it was like a soft yellow. And they got all these cheap
The blue.
LED UFO lights from Amazon, and they put one up, and it was so bright, dude. It was like an airplane headlight. I couldn't believe it, man. I was like, "This is so bright, dude." I was like, "If you guys put these in the whole shop, it's gonna give me a headache, man. I swear to God." So I was like, "Is there any way you can get a different spectrum? Can you go up to like I don't know if it was like 5,000 K or something, 5,500 K? I
Hmm.
think it was like 2,500 or 3,000 K. It was like more blue, and I think we wanted to go higher to get more yellow. And
Uh-huh.
anyways, long story short, they didn't do it because they were more expensive,
Of
and there
course.
every freaking light in the shop with these blue lights, dude. And like, I went to work one day. I came home from the weekend, and I came in on a Monday, and like, I almost turned around, I almost clocked out and went home. I was like, this is insane, dude. Like, I was like squinting, and like it was like giving me a headache. And I eventually sort of got used to it, but I noticed it was kind of giving me a little bit of a headache. But it was just like this is even more reason to get out of here, you know?
Yeah. You're talking to a lighting snob. Like, I like those are old incandescent bulbs. They're outlawed. They outlaw the bulbs now. You can't even buy them
I
anymore.
got one right here, dude. I got one. Actually, no, it's not incandescent. My
I,
bad. But I bought boxes of them off of eBay.
mhm. You can still do the warmer LEDs. I think they're still easier on the eyes than some of the very bright daylight colors. So I'm a lighting snob. I put in lights for a living, and when a lot of people just in the last few years like have switched over to the high white bright stuff, and they want it all in every room of the house, and it just
Mm.
okay, it's their preference. But yeah, I couldn't stand it for my own living quarters. I like to have that soft, closer to the firelight look.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And they're doing it to all the street lights too. Are they doing that down where you're at?
Yeah. Yeah, the high pressure sodiums, all that is gone. Everything's new LED. And so anything that high output that actually puts off warmer hues that are more in the frequency of the sun. No, that takes too much electricity, and so they're under austerity. They're just ruining the light, and that's ruining our eyes.
It's
Um,
crazy,
and
dude.
your
It's
children, keep them away from the blue lights, keep them away from the too much screen time early on, get them
yes.
outside, let them engage in activities where they can focus their far sight. Because
Mm,
what's happening now is everybody's going nearsighted.
yeah.
And optometrists, like I've said, since the lockdowns, we had our kids inside, they're doing the screen learning, and the rate of nearsightedness has just gone up exponentially because people aren't exposed to natural sunlight and they're just constantly focused on a screen with limited range of motion and depth, and their eyes aren't developing, and it's an epidemic.
Mhm.
But if you know country folk who raise their kids to run out in the wild blue yonder, you know that not nearly as many of them are nearsighted. And they
Mhm.
call it genetic, and they're saying, oh, there's all these genetic components, but it's because everybody for 3 generations have been living inside in these clustered lives without much experience, like going out into the wide open and actually doing things, engaged in activities like, bird watching, wildlife hunting, gathering, where they actually have to use strong eyesight. And if you don't use it, you lose it. And so that's what's happening now. People aren't being exposed to the natural sunlight during the developmental stages, and it's causing their eyes not to develop fully.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. It's so just insidious, man. And like when you see it, it's so hard not to get into just the whole biblical aspect of this and the whole good and evil side of it. And it's just like, dude, they're changing everything to where it just makes you like sick and sad, and like they're changing everything down to like the light bulbs in the streets, and just everything is just slowly changing, and it's just creating like very just depressed, unhealthy people. It's
Anything that's healthy and wholesome is outlawed, or made so expensive you can't afford it. Like now,
I know.
clothing, they try to surround us in these synthetic materials, and then the microplastics are accumulating at such a high level in the environments that everybody's touched by it. And the hormonal imbalances and the inability of men and women to come together and breed and have viable offspring and stand side by side and actually get along. Like, how much of this is just all that artificial interference with our hormonal pathways? Not enough sunlight, too many hormone disrupting chemicals, all this high technology that's supposed to make us so much better and our life so much easier is really just
Mhm.
caused a whole host of other problems to solve. And
Yep.
so we're working on that. So
Yep.
it's a it's a struggle. But
Yep.
now, time like more than any, if we are aware of this, we have the power and we have the technology, and we
Right.
just have the wisdom to know what to do with it. And
Yep.
so I think we can still bring it back. And I think that's what we're working on, trying to bring
Well,
back natural health.
yeah, there's some skills and tools that you can learn. There's some really easy things that you can do if you want to block blue light. Just go get some blue block glasses. Me and my wife have been using them for like 2 years. At night when we want to watch videos or if we want to watch a movie or whatever, we use our blue blocking glasses every single night. Every single night. We have them in a special box. We have them in a special case. They don't get scratched. And they're right next to the TV, like where our remotes are at, and we wear them every night. And we get better sleep. I'm not falling. I'm not putting my head on my pillow and feeling like wired, or like my eyes are like stressed out. And you'll notice that if you take the glasses off, it's instantly like your eyes get instantly stressed when you see that blue light after using the blue blocker glasses. So you can grab those for like 20 bucks on Amazon or whatever. And I would suggest everybody get those if you watch videos or TV or whatever after the sun goes down, because it'll help your melatonin production and it'll help you like get to sleep better.
And then the early part of the day, you need to get out when the sun's real low in the sky and just kind of let it hit your eyelids for a few minutes. And that'll kind of set your circadian rhythm for the day. And so
Hmm.
there's things that we can do. And yeah, young children, should be brought out like in the early hours and let the light hit their eyes when it's real low and it's their eyes are protected from it. And that'll acclimate them to it and help set their circadian rhythms.
Hmm.
And just getting them outside and breathing the air, like, I mean, the good crisp air, even in the wintertime, as long as they're bundled up, you
Yeah.
know, get outside and breathe that fresh air if you can.
For sure. Someone just asked, what are your guys' thoughts on STDs, HIV, and AIDS? I'm gonna suggest you go watch our last live stream. I believe that was our last one, right?
Yeah, we touched upon it. Well, I didn't get into any depth or detail like the real nitty gritty, but maybe now's not the time either. Because
Yeah, it's definitely not very much of a segue, but I just wanted to mention to him, check out the last discussion. It's posted on my channel here, and check out the last conversation that we had about that. So, but yeah, man, it's just yeah, it's been interesting, and yeah, trying to figure all this. Like, you really look at health and nutrition and all that stuff so much differently when you have kids, and like um so like he had when he was first born, like his skin was great, and then he started developing a little bit of like the baby acne and like pimples and stuff and little red spots.
Mhm.
And then we brought him outside when we got like a decent day, and it was actually only maybe 55 degrees or whatever, but it was still like Nebraska warm. Brought
Mhm.
him outside naked, and it completely healed his skin, man. Like, his skin looks just unbelievable now.
Huh.
So all it took was like 2 days worth of sun.
Mhm.
And I just wonder, like, we were thinking like most normies, I guess, and probably a lot of parents would think that it's not okay to bring your baby outside when it's like 55 or whatever. But he loved it. He was perfectly fine out there, and I don't think most people would even think of that. Like, if their kid has a rash or like pimples or whatever, they wouldn't think of just like put them out in the sun for a little
Oh,
bit, give them some creams, or like take them to the doctor or something.
yeah. I know, and but the sun and the fresh air, the oxygen around it, not only the ultraviolet rays, but just the oxygen being out in the fresh air, can letting that skin breathe and letting it air out is really just crucial. I think that that's not done enough. What they do is they put the ointment on it and then put the diaper back on and put the onesie and then
Yeah,
all their clothing right on top, and then they're just kind of smothering, and their skin doesn't have the opportunity to breathe and to
right.
fresh air and then get the light on it as well. And so many little skin irritations and issues could resolve themselves if we just take that natural approach.
Yep. And there's also, I was just thinking about, we talking about skin. I was thinking about, we're using our balms on our kid too. So um, when like with like the diaper rash thing, like I think a lot of that happens, and I may be wrong, but from what I've learned is that it happens when you like don't change their diaper right away. Like,
Mhm.
it'll create like a rash on them.
Yeah, they'll
And
get chapped, and yeah, the moisture will cause the irritation, and yeah, they'll have to chapping.
yeah, so that's something that can be totally avoided if you're in tune with your baby, and and you're always with it. And she's been really good at that. But like maybe one time she waited maybe a few hours or something, and he got like a bad diaper rash, and we used our RoweNaturals balm, our protective balm on our baby, his little butt, and it worked great, man. It
Yeah,
was
I just got that jar in. Like I ordered an order, like it just came in earlier today. Like so,
oh,
yeah,
cool.
I got the whip stuff.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Hell yeah.
So that's good stuff, and I use it for everything. I agree,
Mhm.
like, just a little bit of oil on the skin as cleaning. Like, you don't even necessarily for the baby have to use a bunch of soap and try to people, sometimes overwash their babies and they just get a rash because their skin are stripped from the natural oils.
Yep.
So, like, you can use oil and just clean it, like maybe just a wet rag and then put a layer of oil after they get out the wash so that it seals the skin and keeps it from getting dry. So,
Mm.
like, a lot of things that you can do that don't require much at all. Definitely
Good.
not products with a bunch of chemicals.
I know. I know. I don't think we haven't used soap on our baby one time, and I'm not sure if we actually ever will. Like, I don't see the point in it. Like, I don't use soap on my body at all. Besides, I used a little bit of tallow soap at one point, to our bar tallow soap, which washed my hair really good, I will say. So that does work for shampoo. But I wanted to talk to you too. That actually reminds me. I wanted to talk to you about clay. We got some stuff called Rasool clay. Have you heard of that?
No, I mean, is it like the mud clays you use externally, or is it?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Basically, I don't know if people eat that particular clay, but we found out it was a good thing that people use for shampoo, because my wife is she's on this never-ending struggle to try to figure out how to get something to wash her hair right and get the
Mhm.
right results from it. So
Yeah.
I can just use eggs. I can just like whip eggs up in a bowl, and it's fine.
Some
But
people don't like the oily. Like like I use natural. I don't usually use shampoo and I keep my hair short, but I did the eggs for a while as well. And yeah, it keeps it shiny. But yeah, some people want to wash the oils out to have a little more volume and do things with it. So it just depends on what you want. But there's a lot of,
She,
but
she was
I don't
running.
need to use a lot of stuff because a lot of people in my family and people I know that just try to shampoo like twice, 3 times a week. They have the dry scalp and the flaky skin, and then they end up having, to use conditioners because they strip out the oils. And so, like, instead of doing all that balancing act, yeah, just rinse a few egg yolks out, or
Yeah.
or you're saying like how much easier it is. It seems to take care of your hair if you
Well,
don't use.
she couldn't figure out how to do it with the eggs properly for some reason. Like it, I guess it left her hair like like straw or something, and she's
Oh, if you don't rinse it out fully, or
something was going on, and she was going on forums online, and she was running into women that had these issues too. And I guess there's some women that the only thing that really works is this like Rasul clay.
hmm
So she got some, we bought some, and she used it, and she said it worked great. And then I used some yesterday, and it like really washed my hair better than I've had it washed in like years, man.
uh-huh.
Really did a good job, and it was just very interesting because I've never used clay really anywhere on my body. Maybe I've done some on my face at one point, but I never used it in my hair. And then I did an apple cider vinegar rinse because she recommended doing that. But it worked really good. But my question to you would be, so we were looking into clays, and I guess there's a certain level of like heavy metals that are naturally found in like soil and clay.
hmm
Uh, what kind of concern do you think that is for using clays on your body? If there's like a natural level of heavy metals, like because we looked into the Rasul and it seems like it's got one of the lowest concentrations, and it's probably along the concentration levels of like what you would find in your fruit or something anyway.
hmm
But what are your thoughts on that? Like, do you think that's something to be like concerned about, or is that just like whatever?
If they're bound up to the mineral matrix of the soil, if it's not loose heavy metals or like organic mercury, stuff like that, that can soak through the skin, I wouldn't be concerned about it at all. Like, yeah, there's trace levels of metals in all soil. You're not going to avoid it. So, yeah, I wouldn't be concerned
Yeah.
unless, extremely high levels of organic compounds that can leach through the skin. But yeah, clay, no, it'll rinse right off.
Well, uh, I think bentonite clay. If you go online, people freak out about bentonite clay because they say it's high in lead.
Hmm.
So like something that
The
people.
Stony Seven and some of the internal clays that people drink, and or like zeolite's aluminum. Like they have like aluminum silica stuff that they have in the clay. So they're saying that aluminum, if it's bound with silica, it actually draws metals out of the body. So like there's a lot of like contradicting information when I've did my research about clays and detoxification, that
I know.
I just I avoid it. I don't really use the clays because my theory is that my diet should be pure enough that I don't need to
Right.
go that type of detox. But when you're using it topically for skin treatment, yeah, I don't think there's really any concern for
That's
it.
that's kind of what my instinct was too. I was like, if the levels are probably so low, it's like naturally find in like dirt, you'd probably get the same amount swimming in a lake or something. And if I was just going to use it on my hair, I'm not going to. But the reason I'm
Or
asking,
tools, using tools with hand, like I work on all types of stuff. I work with heavy metals, and I've been exposed, and so all this stuff about avoidance that I've learned, it just helps me mitigate probably some of my past exposures because I've been exposed more than majority of people just working commercial electric for years. But there's things you can do to mitigate. Like I've been wearing cotton inserts on my gloves. Like you can buy these packs of cotton inserts, and then about every work glove you can find has these hormone disrupting chemicals in it. For some reason, even
oh,
leather, like if you look at the, may cause cancer in the state of California labels on most of them. But yeah, most work gloves with the synthetic materials that are tough that help protect your hands,
yeah,
what you should do is what I've been doing for the last few years is using a cotton gloves, kind of like a sock, a buffer. And so that's the best thing you can do. when you're in contact with things that might contain metals is wear good gloves and have a good cotton insert. And then
Mhm.
if you get hit or touched or dust on you, just wash it off. Take a rag and just scrub exfoliate your skin. You don't have to bleach yourself or use a bunch of chemical soaps. Just physically remove it from the
Mhm.
body and physically keep yourself, you know, at a distance if you can, or buffered in whatever way you can, so that you're not directly in contact with these heavy metals that are
Sure.
ubiquitous everywhere.
Yeah, that's something I'd never thought about in my entire life was the insides of gloves and the chemicals and things that are in that. I've never even thought of that, man.
And how nasty they get after you sweat in these gloves, and
Yeah.
the moisture, like just like in your feet, if you have like synthetic fibers in your shoes and they get wet, and then you're just soaking them right through. And
Mhm.
so like I had like a rough spot on my big toe because working in wet shoes, and it just took a year or so to go away. Finally I just became very, very picky about my socks and like wearing clean cotton socks, and then just changing them out regularly, airing out my feet whenever I could. And
Mhm.
so you got to do things like that, or else they just get swampy, and then you start, I guess, stewing in these juices of synthetics. And
Mhm.
and the cotton inserts in the gloves actually breathe. So like in the summertime, like you don't get too sweaty because it actually offers an oxygen barrier where you can actually wick moisture out. Where
Uh-huh.
you don't have the cotton inserts, that you just get sweaty and swampy. And so yeah, and in the wintertime they keep you a little warmer. In the summertime, like they wick moisture. And so I found like just working with the cotton insert gloves with everything for the last few years, like it's allowed my hands to just stay softer. I don't hurt them or cut them or damage them like I used to, and I don't
Awesome.
get exposed
That's,
to as much stuff. So well,
that's
yeah, if you're working on metal
uh,
buildings, you might want to.
yeah, yeah, that's like perfect timing, dude. Because my first day will be Monday, and I'm kind of rolling out there just like a total newbie. So I'm gonna be literally asking guys like what kind of gloves. That was gonna be one of my first questions was what kind of gloves do you guys wear and stuff. So that'll be cool to get that all set up and not have to worry about that. So oh, I was gonna say I wanted to while we're in the middle of the stream here, I wanted to slide in a little advertisement for Row Naturals. While we got 34 people here. I just want to say if you guys want to support my channel and you guys like my streams, visit RoweNaturals.shop. It's ROWE Naturals.shop. That's the company that I created to help support my journey here and support my family. And we're selling 100% grass fed tallow balms and whipped creams. And we also have organic clothing in there right now. And we have tallow soap, which is out of stock, but we're going to be in stock in about 2 weeks. So it's stuff that you can clean your body with, and you can shape your beards and moisturize your skin. And it's all like 100% natural and clean stuff. So we're going to have all sorts of stuff in there that we're going to be featuring too. So, but yeah, it's RoweNaturals.shop. And the Rasul clay, that's the one thing I ran that by you is because I think we're gonna feature that into the shop because I was so impressed with what it did with my hair. I was like, people are gonna love this if they want to clean their hair with something natural. So I think I'm gonna throw it in there too. We're gonna start messing with that. But anyways, enough shilling for Row Naturals. Um, let's see what else. What else do we got about baby stuff, man? There's just so much you can talk about. Like toys, we got all these natural wooden toys. We're not giving them anything with like wood finish on it. We're not giving them anything with like plastic, and we're not like going to be overstimulating him. So we're not going to be giving him all these fancy things with bells and whistles and noises and blah blah blah. Like I think a kid is best left almost to be able to just kind of think for himself about stuff and not be constantly like stimulated. Like we know, like the people that are kind of waking up to the truth. Like we know um, how bad it is to be stimulated all the time, to be a toy distracted. And I think it seems like that's what people are doing with their babies is they're constantly distracting them with stuff and like rattles and all, which is kind of fun. It's kind of fun to like get their attention every once in a while, but anyways, that's just something that we're doing is we have very simple like wooden toys, and we're not going to be giving our kid screens as long as humanly possible. We'll works. But
Yeah, good luck.
I know, dude. And it's like I'm thinking already about like, all the fancy stuff that they can use to teach kids with and stuff like. But and one thing we're for sure about those, we're not going to have our kid on social media, which is very unfortunate for everybody, and I apologize to everybody because I know some people are probably looking forward to that. But yeah, it would make for great content, but we decided it's not going to be like ethical to put our kid on there without his consent, sort of per se. So
I'm in the same boat. Like, I'm of the same mind. Like, it's hard enough being the child of the raw meat man, and in your case, the raw meat man and woman. And it just,
yeah,
there's social connotations, and there's so many people that are snap that you can't put them out there. It's not right. And
yeah,
so, yeah, they deserve to have their anonymity,
yep.
at least to a certain point.
Yep, and Blood is Life asked me, "Do I ship worldwide?" Yes, I ship worldwide. We ship to lots of different countries all over. Um, but yeah, anyways, yeah, there's so much to talk about with that, man. It's like, um,
Yeah, you're just beginning. I mean, this is just the beginning of it. And so
I
it's
know,
a lifelong process, but it's a rewarding one. And it's one that people should be encouraged to undertake. We don't need to be at odds with each other to the point where we think the world's lost. That's the last thing we should do. There's a lot of people, how can you bring a child into this world? And it's like, well, we're going to do what we can to make it a good world for them. And just day by day. And I've never lost hope. I still think that the world's worthwhile and that we can bring more children in and more children of the natural mindset.
yeah,
We'll spirit, we'll be the stewards of the next generation. And so we got to lead by example.
yeah. It's just amazing to me. Like I'm like 5.5 years into my journey. My journey started before, but I mark my journey beginning like the day I started eating raw meat because that was the day it just like opened up my eyes to all this different stuff. But so I'm about 5.5 years into this, and it's like I'm still learning, man. Like, people asked me like 2, 3 years ago if I was going to write a book, and I was like, no, I'm not writing a book until I'm like 15 years into this at least. Like,
I'm getting there.
because I know that I don't know shit.
I'm getting there. And
Yeah, you're on your way, dude. I could see you putting together. You're pretty good with words, man. Like you could transcribe something into a book, and people would buy it. I'd put it on Naturals.
I just value so much on personal experience and my own life and what works for me. And I don't know if I can translate it and transcribe it in a way that would be beneficial. So I'm still kicking around some ideas about how to be able to express and teach others what I've learned without going down the path of the guru. And I don't want that path either. I don't want to be responsible for followers. I don't want to
Right,
have responsibility of maybe
right,
people misinterpreting some of what I have advocated for. And
right.
so, I mean, everybody has that concern when you enter into like these uncharted territories. And so I'm more of an explorer, and I just want to continue to explore this and maybe be able to relay some of the lessons along the way. We can stop and have these conversations, and I
Sure,
think they're beneficial. And there's other people out there that might be able to learn from it, and we can encourage them to keep exploring.
for sure, man. Yeah, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep an open mind to that. There's more things. There's like what you know. There's what you know you don't know, and what you don't know you don't know. And it's like always remembering that. And it just blows my mind all these new concepts that come in like 5.5 years in, like learning about free birth and just all of the crazy things involved in the medical system that are involved with the very first day that you enter this realm. Like the very first moment you enter this realm, there's just like demonic entities like crouched around you and surrounding you and just influencing your health and your well-being and your spiritual development. And it's like from the get-go. And it's just learning about that has just been just blowing my mind, dude. 'Cause
It's the wickedness. And I remember growing up, going to Bible school and listening about the wickedness of the world and just rolling my eyes like I didn't understand
I
wicked. You
I
don't stand wicked until you have children, and
Yeah.
a lot of other people in this world with their own ideas about how you should raise them. that's that's where you reach the point of recognizing where wicked is. And so I don't know what to do necessarily about it, but what we can set is a foundation, and we can stand on our values, and we can begin to share those, and to pass them down. And you've got a long journey ahead of you. It's not going to be easy because what I've gone through, and where people have different views and different values, there are disagreements. And so I've had disagreements with my family over a lot of things, and a lot of them might have wrote me off as completely insane and not allowing
Mhm.
me to be able to come forth and have discussions and have debate, and just completely canceled. And yet my children have been by my side ever since they were born, and they know who I am by now. And so, even though those conflicts had to occur, they've grown wise to it. And now they're coming of age to start making their own decisions. And that's just great. Once you see that the light of reason starts to wake up in them, and then you can help them, guide them past some of these obstacles in this world. That's where the rewarding part comes in.
Mhm.
It's not in the fights, not in the struggles, but and afterwards, after the lessons are learned, and you see them start to learn and see them, but you can't force it. You can't make them learn your lessons. Like, you can't make them live your kind of life.
Mhm.
But you can set that foundation and give it time, give it encouragement, and let them know that they're always open and they're always welcome, to share that part of your life. And so, I wish you all the best. I mean, this is a great time to start this type of a new concept of raw
Mhm.
meat incorporated into childcare, and it's great. If
Yeah.
either one of us had a medical doctor, we would be stripped of it immediately.
Oh
so
yeah. Oh yeah.
so we're not medical doctors giving medical advice, but we're human beings who've lived long enough on this earth to realize what works for us. And
Yep.
so trying to help out. And I think that the children can benefit from this life just as we have. And so if you and your wife are living on this raw meat based diet, and you're incorporating different foods that work for you, and share it with your children and see what they like, see what they thrive with. And if you're that in tune with your own instinct, then you'll be in tune with their needs, and you
Mhm.
learn and grow together.
Yep. That's the plan, man. And yeah, it's all about being in tune, and that like ties in with the baby led weaning. People ask, when do you start feeding your kids food? When you start feeding your baby raw meat and stuff? And there's the whole baby led weaning thing where you just kind of let them pick it out and point it out when they want it. You know.
No, yeah, you're already on track. Yeah, there's so much. You got to start giving them samples when they're 6 months old. And no, if they're on breast milk and it's good and they're getting enough calories out of it, you don't have to start forcing anything. And they'll start reaching for your food when when the time's right. They'll show that interest, and they'll start nom nom nom, and
Yeah.
you can give them a little taste of bone marrow and stuff. Like, when the time comes, they'll show the interest, and
Yep.
then you'll be able to go instinctively. And I don't see why children have to eat a completely separate diet from their parents. If both parents are thriving on a certain diet, then that should be the diet to go to for the children.
Yeah.
The idea that we're going to eat a plate of steak and meat, and then you're going to eat macaroni over there. It just
Yeah.
that's that's not natural. That's not the way that we were raised.
Hmm. Yeah. I'm sorry I didn't bring food today either. I ran out of food, dude. So
I
I'm
heard about your food, man. But yeah, I got a little bit of ram meat, so I mean that's something to.
ooh.
And I made it nice. I mean, these are kidneys, so I ended up
Uh,
kidney,
mhm.
liver.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So
Oh,
I
oh
ample
well, let
platter.
me
So I
stop you.
was
Well, let me
just
stop.
in case you're going mukbang, but I guess I
Yeah, I just so we yeah, we're in between right now. We're about 2 weeks. We're gonna get a half a grass fed cow. So I ran out. So I just have literally like store bought grass fed ground beef, and it's not great, man. I'm just really surprised, and it's supposedly a good farm, a good brand too, and I'm just not impressed with it at all. I've been eating this like organic. Whoops, I lost your camera.
Yeah, I had a phone call.
I
Are
can
you?
still hear you. I can still hear you though. But
Yeah.
yeah, just used to this organic grass-fed stuff, and so I didn't want to embarrass myself and bring some pink sludge to the mukbang.
Yeah, I know I'm very picky about ground beef, and it's real hard to find. Am I still frozen?
Yeah, I can't see your screen at all.
But can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, I guess that's what matters. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
this local co-op, there's a farm that was doing primal ground, and
mhm,
they only raise a couple animals a year, but they're usually pretty good. And
mhm,
so I've been getting some primal ground where they blend about 10 to 15% organs in with the ground beef.
mm,
And, like I said, quality is everything. And so like this stuff is pretty tasty. And so I've actually gotten the kids to eat, organ meats by just giving them the primal ground, and
mm,
at first not telling them, but then eventually they start looking at the package and thawing it out and helping them, you know, helping me cook dinners. And then once they realize, hey, it's not that bad, they get over the stigma.
mhm,
That stigma of, oh, organs, liver, and heart. And but yeah, that's just a lot of social stigma we got to break through. And I think that in order to encourage other people to follow this way of life, they're going to have to face it as well. There's
mhm,
just so much of it out there, so much prejudice, so much bigotry, and that's what it
mhm.
is. I mean, we can call it whatever you want to call it, but it's just people who are narrow-minded that want to demonize a way of life without even considering it or without even looking at what it's done for certain people. So we
Mhm.
gotta just stay true to ourselves and practice. And if it feels right and if we're healthy, then who is anyone else to say we're doing it wrong?
Yeah, I know. I know, man. It's all just so interesting and fascinating. Whole this whole thing. It's like, just beginning to eat raw meat is just one side of it. Like you can't it's like you really can't start eating like raw meat without learning like all this other stuff at the same time. It's just like everything ties in together, and it's just amazing like the amount of information that's out there. And like I'm just really interested. Like, wouldn't you like to know like what you don't know, but what you're going to learn in the next like 15 years? Like, that's just my.
Well, that'd be called cheating. I mean, if we were omniscient and we knew everything, then the whole process of life would become moot. And so we just transcend it all in one glorious moment. So I think that this life and learning is actually part of the purpose. And so, yeah, we can't know, because if I knew what I knew when my kids were born, things they would have been completely different. Everything would have been completely different. We wouldn't have had the experiences we've had, the struggles, the trials, the tribulations. I think that comes with it. There's no way
Mhm.
out. Like you can look back and with wisdom and say, "Oh, I could have done it better," but you don't know. There's no way of truly knowing.
Yeah, I know.
You
And
go back with all your wisdom and highfalutin ideas, and then the environment reacts differently, and you get God smacked in 10 different ways
mhm.
that you would never done if you didn't know better. That's why I think fools rush in. You just have to go into this with open eyes and an open heart.
Mhm.
And so you can't be certain, and you can't just let that uncertainty deter you from trying. And I think that's it's doing to a lot of people, a lot of kids, a lot of parents. When they go into this journey, they get so deterred and they're afraid they're going to do it wrong. And like, there's a pretty good chance you are, and there's a pretty good chance there's going to be some epic failures along the way. But it's unavoidable. And
Uh,
if you go into it with that spirit, then yeah, you might as well not have kids and let's just give up on this thing called life. And so we're not ready to do that.
mhm.
No.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. Someone just asked, "Do I need to freeze the beef before eating it raw?" No, definitely not. I get that a lot, and I'm not sure where people get that from, but that must be something that's going around online that you should like freeze food so you don't get food poisoning or something.
Our parasites, like it kills the parasite larva. I
Mhm.
think that might be part of it. If you freeze it uh, then the parasitic eggs break or something like that. I don't
Hmm.
know. Like, I don't really spend time avoiding parasites. I try to find animals that are healthy and that if they might happen to have a worm or two, so far it hasn't bothered me. So
Someone said, our blood is life said hospitals are satanic rituals, never give birth there. And that reminded me, that reminded me of called Confessions of a Medical Heretic by Robert S. Mendelsohn. Have you ever read that?
I think I've heard of it, but
Dude, that's an amazing book, and I'm
yeah.
pretty sure you would absolutely love that book, dude. But basically, he breaks down how the entire he's a doctor, and he breaks down how the medical system is basically like a satanic ritual, and like the doctors are priests, and how he breaks down how the whole ritual of going into the doctor's office is basically like a religious ceremony. It's like it's a profound book, dude. Um,
Yes.
and he wrote it a long time ago too. He was one of the first like anti-vaccine doctors, like in the '80s or whatever. But reminds me of that
Oh,
book. And then also, it's on my Primal Book Club. If you go on Instagram, I have a channel called Primal Book Club. It's
mhm.
on there. And another book that if people want to learn about raising babies, they should read a book called The Continuum Concept. And that's a book that my wife's reading right now. And she said it's a really profound book. It's like one of the best books she's ever read. So just want to throw a couple books out there for people.
Yeah, I'm totally on the same wavelength with the medical establishment. I'm trying to see redeeming value in the fact that it does actually preserve and tend to be able to help people survive situations that they wouldn't survive naturally.
Hmm.
But you have to come to terms with consequences of that. People who are no longer viable are, living longer than ever and reproducing, and we become more and more detached. And when you don't allow the natural processes, and the viral process especially, it's so misunderstood. Like the natural healing, rejuvenative qualities of the cell, the ability for us to repair our DNA, I think is involved in the viral process. And that point is so missed, not even acknowledged. Like a few on the outskirts, like Cowan and a few others that believe that viruses in the terms of exosomes may be messaging signals, or Augenes von der Planets where he called them cleaners and soaps. Like
Hmm.
this is more in tune with what this process is. But the
Hmm.
the life process of rejuvenation, when the cells become so sick and so non-viable, and the body becomes full of these non-viable zombie cells, what do you do to clean them out? What possible mechanism do we have? And this is where I believe viral uh, genetic repair sequences are initiated. And then if the cells are triggered to undergo this process, and if they're not viable, then they get destroyed and they get eliminated from the body. And whatever toxins, whatever metabolic waste that's in those cells gets eliminated, and there's a detox reaction the body undergoes, and it has the appearance of sickness and disease. And they
Hmm.
call that the disease when it's really part of a process.
Hmm.
And I can see this process work out clearly in how necessary and vital it is for the health and well-being of the individual, for the development of their immune systems in the childhood phase when they're growing and exponentially increasing their cellular mass. They have to undergo periodic cleansings. And we call these cleansings measles and mumps and rubella, oh my, and all these chicken pox and the flu and whatever you want to call it. These things aren't what they're called. They're processes, and they're not something to just be dismissed and say, well, we don't really need to go through those anymore because we can just artificially stimulate an antigen response and teach the body not to go through the detox cycle. And what they're doing is they're retarding our immune systems. They're developmentally delaying our immune systems. They're playing God. They're doing things with it that we can't even understand the ramifications, because when they inhibit that natural cleansing cycle, the repair sequences, then our genetics don't repair. The epigenetic cycle does not allow for what I believe is a evolutionary process from which we adapt directly to the environment depending on what the requirements are. And they
Mhm.
call this mutation. And they say that the viruses are mutating. And like each new variant is a new viral mutation. And it's not a viral mutation, it's a human mutation, or the organism itself is mutating. The mutation is the process of creation.
Mhm.
It's what it does incarnate. And we just are so ignorant, all of us,
Mhm.
I'm included. I don't know the words to use. I don't know the science behind it. It's intuition. It's a feeling. It's an instinct that I'm trying to express of what these cleansing mechanisms are and why they need to be allowed to happen. And they
Mhm.
need to be nourished. They don't need to be intoxicated. When people undergo these processes, yes, we need to find out at the bottom of it what is their underlying issue. Why are they in such a state that they have to undergo this process? And then why can't we just nourish them a little better or change the environment in a way where so many of their cells don't become intoxicated simultaneously to where entire populations even have to undergo
Mhm.
this process? And it happens at a population level because these exosomes possibly do transmit through the environment. And they're signals telling the cells of the other organisms in the environment, this is the problem we're facing. And then there's a dance involved, and they can call it a war, and they can make it into this horrific process of alien invaders trying to take over the cells of the body and trying to mutilate and mutate and kill. Or you can look at it as a creative process. It's like, we have this problem, the organisms in the environment are organizing solutions, and part of the solution is, oh yeah, by the way, you have a bunch of sick cells dying inside of you and I have them inside of me. We need to find out ways to rebalance and realign that. And then out of that, these viral processes evolve that we don't understand, and they continue to just propagate the most outlandish, superstitious beliefs about what they are, and then blame other people when an individual gets sick. Well, you sat next to somebody who passed that contagion onto you, so you're the one who's been cursed by this evil spirit. And this is the type of superstitions that the medical establishment has been built upon.
Yeah, I know.
All right. We're I got off on a tangent there, but I'm back.
So good though, dude. That was so good. I want to clip that and like make a video. That was such a good one. Because you nailed it, man. You nailed it. And the problem is you see it so clearly and they don't. That's the problem. Like I see it. I see it the same way you do, man. It makes much more sense, the whole theory that you just explained there, than the alien invader theory. And I don't see why they can't see it. And I don't know if it's an IQ thing, if the average doctor that gets in there is just they're just a lower IQ than people like you and I and other people that see it. I don't know what it, or if it's like a fear of challenging authority. I
Mhm.
don't know what's stopping the doctors from seeing it, or the potential doctors, even the students. But it
Yeah.
seems like some of them do. Some of them break away
Mhm.
and end up seeing it. Like Tom Cowan and
Yeah.
other doctors,
Yeah.
and they end up seeing it the way that you and I do. And it's very interesting that how many people don't see it though, man. They get taught one way, and you know, it's just everything. There's just so much built upon this idea that
Oh, it's the pillar that it's all the establishment's built upon. And
yeah,
when somebody like me, somebody like you has no credentials, has no education whatsoever, just takes that pillar and just throws it aside and says, "Well, let's do something different." They can't handle it. It just completely there's
right,
this cognitive dissonance that sets in, and it's institutional. And anybody with any credential, anybody with any PhD that had to pay their dues in order to have that accreditation is dead set against it before even going through the process of seeing if maybe there's some legitimacy to our claims. And so yeah,
hmm
reason and logic don't seem to factor in. It just seems to be a dogmatic religious adherence to a system of belief. And this is no different than the superstitions of ages of old. And maybe it's the same conflict just being played out in the modern era, except for the arrogance of mankind today, I think supersedes that even of the ancient days of superstition. It's on at least on par. And so maybe we're not really anywhere different than we were a generation or multiple generations ago in this conflict of reality of what is nature, what is biology, what is life. These are the big questions and these are the big controversies. And I think that we should be able to have these lively discussions publicly.
Hmm.
And but they're not happening. People like me, people like you are being censored and we're being suppressed on all platforms. The public square no longer exists as it had done generations ago, where you could go to the town hall and you could talk to the authorities or you could even hobnob with the people at the universities. Like
Hmm.
everything's been so segregated and sequestered, and we just don't have the access to the brain trust and these think tanks and these people that make all the policy decisions. They're just behind this ivory tower wall and we just can't reach them. And it doesn't seem like they're even looking our direction at times. And every now and then I think I should just poke them a little bit and say, hey, I'm here. Like Horton, here's a who. We are here. It's like, can't you hear us?
No, oh man, it's amazing. We're so buried, but yeah, that's just the nature of the realm, dude. Once you,
But it's a nice realm. I, I
yeah,
don't mind. I don't mind tending this realm and being
I'm
the
loving it.
keeper of the light.
I'm having a great time. I feel so blessed to be able to know what we know and to be able to help. Like we're helping a lot of people right now, man. Like some people, I mean, if you get a chance to help one person, is great. But like when thousands of people watch these streams, that's amazing.
I,
Thousands, 5,000 people, man. Like that's a lot of people we're helping. You know.
yeah, we try to get lost with the big picture, millions and millions, but yeah, there's thousands and thousands of us that otherwise wouldn't have known about this way of life. And that in and of itself should be a reward. Like there's people in Germany that follow me and that's followed me from the times of my German documentaries, and it's encouraged them to buck the system and go out and get their own sheep and butcher and do things off the grid. And this is talking about the culture in Europe, where there's so many regulations and there's so much of a nanny state there where you're not really allowed in a lot of cities and places to process your own meat. And I've
Hmm.
encouraged people to buck the system, and they're doing it and they're thriving. And it's on a very small scale. And it's just from individual to individual. But gosh, Lee, that's just, I mean, I'm honored. If something that I have done, if something that I've learned could help somebody along the way, or just encourage them
For
to
sure.
try for themselves.
For sure. Yeah. Lots of people are getting help, man. And yeah, it's like it doesn't really work that way once you get into the millions. It's not really meant. That's not like the rules of the realm here. It's not possible to just step up on a pillar and an altar and help 10 million people, man. That's just not that's like God's work right there, you know? So
It,
like
it would it cause such a catechism that the wrath, yeah, no, the wrath of the gods would come upon us. And
for
so
sure.
we have to talk in these terms because we use the metaphors, but I don't know, there's some type of nature to it where, yeah, we've gone through these cycles before. And when people do find new radical ways of life, if they get too high and mighty and maybe start preaching and then they go into the place of ego and, yeah, I got a million followers now. That's isn't that when it the pride comes before the fall.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to be that person either. I don't want to get carried away. I
Yeah.
just want to be able to live and be happy and be satisfied that I did what I could while I was here in this realm.
Yep. That's very humble approach, man. And I'm with you on that. So but yeah, so I think we're about 100 minutes in here, man. We could probably up here if you want. I don't want to take up too much of your time, and we can
But it's
all.
been a while. It's been such a long time. We haven't really had one of these chats for a while because I
Hmm.
knew about your expecting, and we just talked about, well, let's just wait until after the baby's born. But you know
Yeah.
how that goes. Time gets away from us.
Oh yeah, for sure. But yeah, we can set up another one here in a couple months if you want.
Yeah, there's a lot going on my end. Like I said, I just don't like talking too much about some of my personal details. But one day I might write an interesting book.
There you go.
I mean, plenty of good books have been written from prison.
Well, hopefully it won't be written from there. But
Yeah. But I'll let you be my spokesman. If anything were to happen where I would drop off the face of the earth, maybe
sure.
I'll send you a line from time to time, and you can just get the message out.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Always be here, man. Absolutely. Well, cool.
And like, if you have any questions,
All right, brother. Well, I
whenever
appreciate
you have questions, like whenever the baby starts to grow and starts to develop, and you have maybe questions, yeah, just feel free to ask, because I've gone through a lot in my own experience, and so I'd be happy to help.
Cool. Yeah, definitely, man. We appreciate your insight, dude, for sure.
All right.
All right, bro. We have a good rest of your Saturday night, and we'll be in touch.
All right. Sounds good.
All right, man. Talk to you later.
Peace.
Bye. All right, guys. So that was it there. Let's see. I don't know how to end this. Oh, there we go. I think I booted him out. So it's just me and you guys now. What's up, guys? That was Derek. Hope you guys enjoyed that. I enjoyed it a lot, man. He's become a good friend, and I really enjoy our conversations. So we will have many more to come. So stay tuned. Subscribe to the channel. Give us a good like the video to boost the algorithm. And we'll talk to you guys soon, man. Appreciate you all guys checking in. Have a good night.